The air was electric with anticipation. Thousands had gathered in Washington, D.C., their breath visible in the crisp January air. It wasn't just Trump's second inauguration they had come to witness. It was the rise of something far more unpredictable. As the newly sworn-in president stepped off the stage, a familiar figure took his place. Elon Musk, the world's richest man, adjusted his microphone and smirked at the sea of cameras flashing before him. For years, he had been seen as an eccentric genius, an innovator, a man obsessed with colonizing Mars. But today, he wasn't just a businessman, he was a kingmaker. Ladies and gentlemen, Musk's voice boomed across the National Mall. The future starts now. Behind the scenes, his team of young, fiercely loyal engineers, DOGE, as they called themselves, had already begun rewriting the rules of power in Washington. They were barely out of college, armed with coding skills and ideological zeal, and now they had unrestricted access to classified government databases. Musk glanced down at his phone. With a single command, he could crash the stock market, erase a senator's online presence, or shut down an entire government agency. And America had no idea what was coming next. Musk had never been a fan of traditional politics. He had once mocked politicians as a bunch of actors pretending to be leaders, but now he found himself at the center of the biggest political shift in modern history. It started with a phone call. "Elon, let's make history," Trump had said. "I need you on my team." At first, Musk hesitated. He had publicly criticized Trump in the past, called him a con man, a fool. But the tides had changed. The Democratic Party had turned against him, snubbing Tesla in favor of legacy automakers. The media painted him as an erratic billionaire, a loose cannon. But Trump? Trump saw him as an asset. Musk agreed on one condition. No red tape, no bureaucratic nonsense. I do things my way. Trump, eager to secure the backing of the world's richest man, nodded. Done. Overnight, Musk was granted an unofficial role in the administration, complete with direct access to federal agencies. He had infiltrated Washington without ever running for office. And with DOGE embedded in government systems, Musk held more power than most cabinet members. His first move was swift and brutal. Regulations that had once hindered Tesla, SpaceX, and his other ventures vanished. Environmental restrictions? Gone. Workplace safety violations? Ignored. DOGE operatives worked behind the scenes, flooding government agencies with audits, forcing resignations, rewriting the rules. Musk had executed the most aggressive corporate takeover in history, not of a company, but of an entire government. Musk didn't just control policies, he controlled people. Government officials began receiving anonymous emails. Follow the plan, or your career ends here. DOGE embedded itself deep within the system, pulling the strings behind the scenes. Laws were passed before Congress even knew they existed. Budgets were rewritten overnight. The public had no idea who was truly in charge. Standing in his new private office inside the West Wing, Musk looked out over Washington. He had dreamed of reshaping the world, bending reality to his vision. And now, for the first time, he truly could. The world thought they had elected a president, but in reality, they had crowned a king. For years, Musk had waged war against regulations. To him, they were shackles that restrained innovation, obstacles imposed by bureaucrats who lacked vision. Now, with Trump in his pocket and DOGE embedded in government agencies, he was finally in a position to eliminate them. The first target was the Department of Labor. Tesla had long faced accusations of unsafe working conditions, suppressed unions, and aggressive anti-labor tactics. Now, those problems could disappear. DOGE operatives systematically dismantled labor protections, stripping workers of their ability to challenge Musk's companies. Complaints were lost in bureaucratic mazes, safety violations erased from reports. A Tesla worker who had previously sued for wrongful termination found his case mysteriously dropped. The judge just threw it out. No explanation, no appeal. "It's like my rights were never real," he told a reporter. Musk's next move was against environmental regulations that restricted SpaceX launches. He saw them as meaningless obstacles imposed by outdated institutions. Overnight, laws protecting wetlands, airspace, and emissions were rewritten or outright erased. SpaceX could now launch whenever and wherever it pleased. Residents near a launch site in Texas woke up to sonic booms and cracked windows. Complaints were ignored. The message was clear. Progress stops for no one. For Musk, the biggest thorn in his side was the Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC. It had fined him in the past for stock manipulation, forced him to step down as Tesla's chairman, and monitored his tweets for misleading investors. Now DOGE had infiltrated the agency. Suddenly, investigations into Musk's financial dealings slowed. Reports were buried. Market manipulation cases vanished. Musk had achieved what no billionaire before him could: total immunity on Wall Street. With key regulatory bodies neutralized, Musk was no longer just an industry leader. He was the industry itself. He dictated the rules, controlled the oversight, and ensured no entity could challenge him. A senator stood before Congress, furious. "This is not capitalism. This is dictatorship by a billionaire," she shouted. But no one listened. The government was no longer theirs to control. The press finally caught on. "Is Musk running America?" One headline read. Investigative journalists began exposing how Musk had systematically dismantled regulations, putting his business empire above the law. Protests erupted in multiple cities. Workers demanded labor protections. Environmentalists called for investigations into SpaceX. Stockholders filed lawsuits, but it was too late. The regulatory system had been gutted from the inside out, and Musk's influence was too deeply embedded. There was one final frontier Musk wanted to conquer: government contracts. Billions of dollars in funding flowed through agencies that still held some level of independence. But DOGE had a plan for that too. The Pentagon needed satellites, and Starlink was suddenly the only viable option. NASA needed rockets, and SpaceX became the sole contractor. Federal subsidies for electric vehicles? Suddenly, Tesla was the only manufacturer that met the newly revised qualifications. Musk didn't just remove regulations, he rewrote the rules in his favor. An anonymous whistleblower inside DOGE sent a chilling message to a journalist. "This isn't just deregulation. This is a takeover," but no one took it seriously. After all, Musk was still hailed as a visionary, a man pushing humanity forward. By the time the world realized the cost of his unchecked power, it was too late. A Tesla factory fire broke out due to ignored safety violations, injuring dozens. A SpaceX prototype exploded over a residential area, leveling homes. Investors who had been manipulated by Musk's stock games lost billions overnight. For the first time, the cracks in his empire began to show. An underground resistance began forming. Former regulators, betrayed investors, silenced journalists. They had all been Musk's victims, and they wanted revenge. DOGE operatives intercepted chatter about a plan to expose Musk. For the first time, the billionaire realized he was not untouchable, and that terrified him. Wall Street had always been Musk's playground. A single tweet from him could send Tesla's stock soaring or crashing. But now he had something even more valuable: inside information. With DOGE embedded deep within the Treasury, Musk had real-time access to federal spending, market forecasts, and economic policies before they were made public. One evening, Musk sat in his private jet, sipping whiskey as he scrolled through confidential economic projections. A major government contract was about to be canceled, one that would send shockwaves through the stock market. "Sell Tesla stock now," he instructed his advisors. Hours later, the news broke. The market panicked, Tesla's stock plummeted. By morning, Musk had repurchased millions of shares at a fraction of their price. As months passed, Musk refined his strategy. He no longer reacted to the market, he dictated it. He began planting rumors, leaking false information, even using bot networks to create artificial buying frenzies. He was no longer just playing the market, he was the market. The Securities and Exchange Commission had been watching Musk for years, but now they were powerless. DOGE had infiltrated the agency, ensuring that every potential investigation was stalled, buried, or quietly dismissed. One anonymous SEC investigator sent an internal memo. "Musk is controlling the market, and we're letting him." It was ignored. Soon, Musk's influence expanded beyond Wall Street. Foreign governments relied on Starlink for internet access. Tesla's electric grid technology was embedded in infrastructure across Europe. His reach was limitless. At one point, a European finance minister warned that Musk's control over economic trends made him more powerful than central banks. They were right, but power breeds enemies. A coalition of hedge funds, politicians, and foreign regulators secretly gathered to discuss a plan. Take Musk down. Leaked documents exposed his involvement in manipulating markets. International governments launched investigations. A lawsuit against Musk was filed in federal court. The inevitable happened. A sudden sell-off of Tesla stock sent the market into chaos. For the first time, Musk found himself on the losing side of the game he had built. As pressure mounted, one of Musk's closest allies, an executive within DOGE, flipped. He turned over evidence to federal prosecutors, revealing secret conversations, manipulated transactions, and classified reports Musk had used to gain an edge. Musk's empire was now crumbling. Tesla, SpaceX, and X, formerly Twitter, were bleeding money. Investors pulled out. Even his most loyal followers on social media started questioning him. For the first time, Musk wasn't the master of his own destiny. Summoned to testify before Congress, Musk walked into the hearing room, cameras flashing. A senator leaned forward and asked, "Mr. Musk, have you been manipulating global markets?" Musk smirked. "Define manipulation." The world was about to witness the fall of the most powerful businessman in history. By now, Musk's influence had surpassed even Trump's. The president remained the face of the administration, but behind closed doors, Musk pulled the strings. Policies weren't debated, they were dictated. Inside Washington, politicians whispered of the Musk Doctrine, a set of unwritten rules that determined who got funded, who got silenced, and who was simply erased from the political landscape. DOGE was everywhere. Hand-picked operatives embedded in key agencies reported directly to Musk. Financial oversight boards, military contracts, federal research projects, everything passed through his hands first. Musk understood that controlling information was just as vital as controlling policy. Through X, formerly Twitter, he shaped narratives, burying critical stories and amplifying voices that aligned with his agenda. Journalists who dug too deep found themselves deplatformed, demonetized, or worse, smeared with scandals manufactured by DOGE's psychological warfare unit. The internet was no longer a neutral space. Algorithms were tweaked to push Musk-friendly content. Critics found their reach mysteriously throttled. A single tweet from Musk could erase reputations overnight. Through his Starlink satellite network, Musk had secured the ultimate power: independent global communications outside government control. Military forces relied on it. Intelligence agencies depended on it. One Pentagon official confided to a journalist, if Musk wanted, he could shut down U.S. military communications in seconds. Musk had no need for official intelligence agencies. DOGE had its own. Data harvesting, predictive analytics, behavioral tracking. DOGE's analysts monitored political enemies, corporate rivals, and even global leaders. With regulatory agencies neutralized, Musk dictated economic policy. Federal Reserve decisions were no longer made in boardrooms, but in secret meetings where Musk's approval was the final word. Senators complained of phantom laws, policies they never voted on but that somehow became enforceable overnight. Foreign leaders recognized the shift. Some courted Musk, offering lucrative tax deals. Others resisted and found their economies mysteriously collapsing, their currencies devalued by manipulated markets. But Musk's empire wasn't unbreakable. Whispers of resistance emerged. A secret coalition of journalists, rogue officials, and former Musk allies started working together. They called themselves the Firewall. One night, Musk received a message on his encrypted device. A single phrase: "We know what you've done, and we're coming." For the first time in years, the billionaire felt something foreign: uncertainty. For years, Musk had operated with impunity, his power unchecked, his influence unchallenged. But no empire lasts forever. The first signs of trouble emerged quietly. Whispers in Washington, anonymous leaks, stock fluctuations that Musk hadn't anticipated. His enemies had begun to organize. A coalition of former allies, government officials, and disillusioned investors calling themselves the Firewall had gathered to expose him. The Firewall's first victory came from within DOGE itself. A senior member of Musk's inner circle defected, bringing with him a treasure trove of classified documents detailing Musk's manipulation of markets, government contracts, and even military communications. Musk's paranoia reached new heights. He ordered security sweeps, purged employees, and tightened access to information. But the damage had been done. The leaks made their way to the highest levels of government. Congress had no choice but to act. A special Senate committee was formed to investigate Musk's influence over government affairs. The hearings were televised, gripping the nation. Musk was subpoenaed. As he sat before the committee, senators hurled accusations. They demanded explanations for his unchecked power, his unaccountable influence, and the economic chaos that had followed his financial manipulations. Mr. Musk, do you deny that you've been using your influence to manipulate federal policy? One senator asked. Musk leaned forward, smirked, and said, "Define manipulate." The hearings ignited a media storm. Investigative journalists exposed Musk's hidden dealings. Social media, once his playground, turned against him. Hashtags like Musk must fall and Yadr tech dictator trended worldwide. For the first time, he was on the defensive. Markets reacted violently. Tesla, SpaceX, and X, formerly Twitter stocks, plunged. Investors fled. Governments around the world began severing ties with Musk's enterprises. He had built an empire on power and perception. Now, both were crumbling. Musk's strongest leverage point, his control over Starlink, was now a liability. The US military, once reliant on his network, began developing its own alternative. Intelligence agencies, tired of Musk's unpredictable nature, cut him out of key discussions. The government no longer saw him as an asset. He was a threat. Foreign leaders who once courted Musk now distanced themselves. European governments launched antitrust investigations. The United Nations debated a resolution to limit corporate control over global communications. Once hailed as the world's greatest innovator, Musk was now a pariah. Realizing his empire was collapsing, Musk attempted one final move, a desperate bid to regain control. He called for a new global order, a vision where technology companies, not governments, dictated policy. But the world wasn't listening. A former DOGE engineer, now a key member of the firewall, leaked the final piece of evidence. Proof that Musk had engaged in active election interference, controlling social media algorithms to favor political allies. With this revelation, the Justice Department moved swiftly. Arrest warrants were issued. On the night before his arrest, Musk boarded his private jet. His destination was unknown. The billionaire who once controlled nations had become a fugitive. As the jet disappeared into the night, a single question remained. Would he fight back or disappear forever? The breaking point came in the form of a leaked document, an internal DOGE memo outlining their direct involvement in suppressing government investigations. Within hours, the news spread like wildfire. Congress launched an immediate inquiry. The DOJ opened a criminal case. The stock market reacted violently. Tesla, SpaceX, and X, formerly Twitter, all plummeted. Musk watched in silence from his private jet as the world he had built began to crumble. "We need a plan," one of his advisors stammered. Musk exhaled slowly. There's always a way out. But for the first time, he wasn't sure if he believed it. The congressional hearings were brutal. The media painted Musk as a power-hungry megalomaniac. DOGE was dismantled, its members facing prosecution. Trump, in a desperate bid to save himself, turned on Musk completely. "I never trusted him," he claimed. Total fraud. Musk, once untouchable, was now a man under siege. In the end, he lost his direct influence in Washington, but his legacy remained. The lines between business and government had been permanently blurred. The precedent had been set. If one billionaire could seize control, others would follow. As Musk stepped off his private jet, cameras flashing around him, a reporter shouted, "Mr. Musk, any regrets?" He paused, smirked, and simply said, "We're just getting started."